Coming up, the infamous Paris Open returns to the Karate One circuit. We'll be discussing the impact this has on the karate world and also a little breakdown of the results. We chat about the Series A in Athens and the new system of splitting the Karate One events, and we have already had 2 of these events happen and it's only February. So we talk about the difference between the Australian off-season and the European off-season. Does this have an impact on us? Do we need to try and align with them? Or maybe it's actually perfect for the youth of this year. All that follows after our talented friend, Good Fortune. If you keep doing that triangle thing, I swear.
I think you missed it again.
Triangle? I thought it was a cowbell.
Sorry, it looks like a triangle. I guess it's both.
Yeah, it's the same
All right.
thing.
Welcome back to the Kaizen Culture Pod. We've decided this is going to be a fortnightly thing, so Wednesday, the 14th of February is the release date for this one.
Yeah, listen to it with your loved one.
Yeah, happy Valentine's Day.
Happy
This
Valentine's.
is a very, very nice romantic thing to do with your couple. Not with your couple.
In a couple.
In a couple. Moving on. Mark it in your calendars and your diaries, on your whiteboards, wherever you keep your podcast knowledge written down. Every Wednesday, fortnightly. As always, please let us know your thoughts and opinions. We'd love to hear about you, so send an email at kaizenculture.info@gmail.com or subscribe to our emailing list, which is on our website, kaizenculture.org. So
I think that'd be really great for people to do because last episode we said the engagement, that's going to be a focal point of ours throughout this year. What's that?
So I thought I got it in the shot then. My bad.
Oh, no, I don't think you did. So it's a focal point throughout this year. That's engagement. We want to engage with our community. And joining this email list, you'll gain access to a lot of stuff that we don't provide on the podcast and we don't provide in the watch parties on YouTube and we don't do on social media. So head to our website. It's really easy to sign up and we'll be really focusing on that area this year.
Wicked. All right. So this is episode 2, and obviously there's a lot to cover in this one. So let's get straight into it. Hey, the Paris Open is back. How cool is that?
So good.
It's back into the Karate One circuit. That's to be a bit more specific. So it was always an event that was run, but since 2020, obviously COVID, but it ran as a standalone international open, not a part of the Karate One circuit for 2021, 22 and 23. So this is the first year that it's back. What do you guys reckon about that?
I think only the French Karate Federation know why they didn't want to be a part of that.
We could always speculate, right?
But I mean, it was still an international open and it was a very high quality international open. And I think it would have still had a lot of really experienced competitors in there, just wasn't classified as a Karate One league tournament. You know?
I love a bit of goss, but I think surely some like financial things, political things, maybe for the Olympics.
Yeah, I mean, they've been heavily involved in the WKF from top to bottom for quite some time. So it's really interesting that tournament that was always such a big one was just out for a few years. But it's great, it's back.
There was, before 2020, they weren't a part of the Premier League, the Karate One League, for a couple of years. So there haven't been it hasn't been a consistent throughout the years.
Right.
There's been a couple of years. There's never been I don't think there's been a 3-year break. That's been quite long. Yeah, right. But they have missed some and, countries go in and they go out of the league. So I don't think it's a big surprise, but I do agree that there must have been, the French Karate Federation, they're pretty well off.
Yeah. It's probably one of the most successful countries.
Yeah.
And richest.
Yeah. So it's not like they probably didn't not have the money to run as a Karate One League tournament. But it is good to see it back because 2017 when we went, that was our first introduction to this Karate One League and all these tournaments. Paris was definitely my favorite. So we did Rotterdam, we did Paris, and we did Dubai. And yeah, Paris was it was such a spectacle.
I always compare it to the 2012 World Championships in Paris. Obviously not the magnitude, but I just think that they know how to put on a show and they know how to bring the crowd and make it run so well and look nice. So it's good to see it back because I love it feels like it's more prestigious than all the other Premier Leagues.
Yeah, and I think that kind of stuff translates well on when they televise it. So if they're putting on that big show, you can start to feel that when you're watching the events, and that's still a fairly recent thing. I know they've been doing it for some years, but it's not like decades that it's been televised.
Yeah, they're pushing the televising a bit more now, and I think it's getting better. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But we'll see how that goes.
Is it because the televising is different from the live streaming on YouTube? Yeah.
I think they've got a full production company now.
So like, I'd love to see it on TV because the YouTube for Paris was average,
Right.
like
okay.
to say the least. During the rounds, it was shocking. Like you were watching on YouTube and it was lagging. The audio, I had to watch it on mute.
Yeah, right.
Because the audio was so.
audio.
Sorry.
Just muting the audio
Yeah,
and just watching.
yeah. Just watched it
you
without.
didn't have us to listen to, so
You need a watch party or something.
yeah.
Yeah, maybe. No, but the finals was okay. The finals
Finals was good.
yeah, pretty much the standard. But I think even live there was a bit of lag.
Yeah, right.
But it would be great to see what the TV looks like. You know,
I think it's just going to get better as they improve their rollout. Maybe it's a new system. Who knows?
Yeah, and it was a well-attended tournament. I think it's great for all these athletes so the top guys can bank ranking points because it is part of the official series.
Yeah, it is good to have it back in there in terms of the ranking. So I mean, yeah, the Karate One League is split up into 3 tournaments. So you've got the Premier League, you've got the Series A, and then you've got the Youth League, which is just reserved for the young ones, under 21s, juniors and cadets and children's.
and they're huge.
Massive.
So I was talking to Mitch the other day, and I had a look at the numbers for the one in
Venice.
Yeah, it was Venice. What did I say? It was like
4,000.
4,000 athletes.
4,000.
4,000. I've never heard of a tournament. So how big was Umag when you did Umag?
You're
Can't
asking
remember.
memory, and I'm not a memory guy. That's just like...
Did it feel like a huge
It felt
tournament?
big. Well,
though?
it was the training camp one, so it was a training camp attached to
Yeah.
a competition, which is like the one in Porrick this year.
Did they not do it for all the youth leagues?
No, or not sure.
I think they do it for a lot of them.
Think
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
Not sure.
I
I
think
don't
it's
think
one
so.
or two per year they really push.
Yeah, I think it's mainly Porrick, but we'll touch on that a little bit later in the pod. But
I think Venice had like 6 mats running
that's nuts.
for the.
For
I think it
youth
was 3 days, and yeah,
It's like a World
4,000
Championships.
athletes.
It's essentially a World Championships.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that big.
Yeah.
Nuts. So yeah, the other one that we're talking about in terms of the Karate One League is the Series A's, and that the rules surrounding that is that it takes into account the top 32 ranked in each division. So the Premier Leagues only, sorry, my bad. The Series A's, the top 32 athletes are not allowed to compete in those tournaments. So it's essentially trying to make a bit more prestige and sort of make that one a more highly ranked event. You're still allowed to compete in the Premier League if you're, let's say ranked 50 or 100, but it's just more so allowing you the first pick basically to get selected and to register.
So I think I read the numbers for Paris. There was about 70% of athletes were in the top 32, and then the rest of the 30% was made up of people who got that spot outside of the 32.
So there's a 32 max, and then obviously you get preference based on ranking. So
Yeah, so like if all 32, like top 32 ranked athletes decide that they want to go to Paris, nobody else gets selected. All of them go.
that makes sense.
Yeah,
That seems
and I think
pretty
it's an amazing initiative that they've started to make it separate, because then it opens up the Series A's so that the top 10 are not competing in the Series A, and you just draw the world champion first round. It does provide a little bit of a tough spot if you're hovering around about that 30, 20, high 20s ranked. So you're constantly dropping in and out. So it makes it hard to plan the year. And it also proves it a little bit frustrating for some Oceania athletes, but I think we'll chat about that another time.
Yeah, I think in the past, one of the rough spots that Australia was in is we'd send athletes, or athletes would just go by themselves to this Karate One League, which was Series A and Premier League's pretty much the same tournament because they hadn't done this top 32 limit. They'd go over and, as Mitch said, they'd verse one of the top 10 first round. They get beaten. That guy or girl didn't get through to the finals, in which case they didn't get rep charged. So you went all this way to be beaten by somebody quite significantly higher level than you, and that's it. Like, that's a lot of money to expend. So this Series A, keeping the top 32 out of it, I think that's so valuable for especially Australian athletes. Like, that is such a good tournament to go do and find international success. Like, you've had success, Mitch.
Yep.
Hannah Sullivan has had success.
Mandy.
Georgie got fifth at in Canada last year.
And even Sean got pretty close.
Yeah, Sean got through 2 rounds. I think he lost in the 3rd round, but that's still the 3rd round is the decider for who goes into the medal matches.
Yep.
So that's still a fantastic effort. So these tournaments, Series A's, amazing with the new format for Australian athletes.
Yeah, I think it does provide some good opportunities. I find the system a little bit weird in that if you're number 33 in the world, you're competing against everyone below you. And then all of a sudden you're 32 and you're against world champions, European champions, Pan American. And that's just a different ball game. And it's just the way they've done it is a bit of a sledgehammer. So it's a switch. It's like one time you're here and then you're here and you may pop in and out. And I think that's maybe a bit too harsh.
Right.
It'd be great if there's a bit of a gradient or like lock out maybe the top 15 and 16 to 32 can choose.
Right. That's good.
Pop in and out.
Yeah, because it is tough. Like 30, there's a big difference between top 10 and like 30. You know, I think that's quite a big difference. What?
I'll play devil's advocate here. If you want some little facts from Paris Open, we had rank 42 got into the finals of the Premier League at Paris. So if the top 32 decided to compete, they wouldn't have even had a shot at competing.
Right.
And they got through to the finals. They did come second, but got through to the finals.
I think it's great they can compete if like the spot hasn't been filled.
Yeah.
It's just weird, I think, if you're 32 to get locked into that, especially if you're going through a bit of a rut in your competition, like maybe it's not feeling it. And then you're just like against elite after like the best of the elite all the time. And you can't go into a Series A or an A-League.
Yeah, so that's what Mitch was touching on before about how it's a bit rough for Oceania athletes sometime, because if you get selected to achieve ranking points at Oceania and you come first or second, that can catapult you into the top 32 and then bang, you can't do Series A's.
It's tough.
Yeah.
We'll chat about that a little bit more in depth in a later episode, but did you want to flick through a couple of results from Paris? Anything you wanted to mention?
I would love to. So there were some really interesting things that happened from Paris Open. As I said, rank 42 got through to the finals. So did rank 56.
Nice.
Female kata, it was female kata, a Japanese athlete was ranked 42. She got through to the finals. And an Iranian athlete who was ranked 56 got through to the finals of the female under 68. So I love those stories, you know, and that it's really nice to see. I love how they did that. Yeah, I love how they open it up to everybody else after the top 32 get their priority, but some of them don't decide that they're going to attend because it allows for this to happen. So some other thing, like no surprises, Japan dominated kata.
What?
I mean, that's been, especially when you think
That was
about
such a sincere what as well, I swear.
how did that happen.
Talking about this.
No, I tried to really put it on there.
There's never been a tougher gig in sport than being like the second best Japanese kata athlete. Like these guys they got both finalists, right?
Yeah, they
Men
got
and women.
So
You can't go to the Worlds if you're the second best in Japan.
That's
but you
wild.
might be the second best kata athlete in the world.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Kiyu Shimizu last year didn't go to Budapest because Ono was picked over her, and she is a former world champion and has won multiple Premier Leagues.
She's not bad.
Yeah, last year, last year in the female kata division, 3 of the Japanese athletes had won Premier League tournaments that year, but only one of them gets selected.
That's crazy. Imagine being a Premier League gold medalist / world champion, and then not going to the world championships like that year.
But it's changed now, hasn't it?
Not just yet. This world championships is for next year.
Yeah, for
next year's
next year.
world championships rankings, points, matters.
There'll be more opportunities
continental.
based on that, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a great change.
Yeah, I think so, because then it leaves that out of the discretion of the national federation. Do you know what I mean? So it takes that control out of that, and then it just leaves it ranking and continental representation. So similar to the Olympics format, but we'll chat about that later.
Under 50, there was a great contest with Reem beating Moldea. Moldea was the world champion in Budapest. Reem from Egypt beat her in the semi-finals and then lost to Salazar in the finals, and Salazar got third at world championship. So those three,
What
I
a tight
love
division.
watching them. Oh, such a tight division. I love watching it, and it's always neck and neck. I mean, what was the crazy stat
I think
from Salazar? Like last 11 major tournaments she's medaled in.
Like
Wow.
that's like Europe, well, she's Pan-American,
Yep.
World Championships, and then all of the Premier Leagues. So that across all of those
That
events,
consistency is
11 or something like that.
It
medals.
is so hard to find that consistency at this level. I mean, to put into perspective, this is an interesting stat. So we had 6 out of 7 world champions didn't make it to the final.
that were
in
competing.
Paris. 6 out of 7. So 7 world champions competed at the championships. Only one of them ended up winning, and that was under 75 Abdullah.
Abdullah's
yeah.
Abdullah's, yeah.
Bit of a world championship hangover.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think
Hard
that
to bounce
to
back.
be fair, only one didn't medal. So
Right,
I think 5 of them got bronze, one of them got gold,
Right.
and one of them didn't medal.
Cool.
But that's it's still an interesting.
That's still
stat.
pretty good though. Like for how unpredictable karate is.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like 3 minutes, anything can happen in the pool stages, whatever.
Sure.
It's pretty amazing to see the medalists or the world champions still medaling a couple months later. I think that's awesome. I like seeing consistency as much as you can.
And then one of my more interesting things to talk about, both Stephen DaCosta and Mehdi
Filali,
Filali didn't
Injured.
compete.
injured
So,
though.
Oh, are they injured? Well,
I don't
one
know
of
about
Yeah.
Stephen, but Mehdi is.
Mehdi is.
Mehdi's injured. Okay,
But
well,
yeah,
that's a good
Stephen,
explanation for
interesting,
that.
right?
Yeah, like Paris Open home crowd didn't compete. So maybe there's a story there. Maybe should we be journalists?
Should we get the
Find
inside
out.
scoop?
Yeah, I wish. Yeah, but that's interesting. And then the French phenom, 20 years old. What's her name?
I think it's like Taylor
Yeah,
or Tyler. I think it's a
fantastic. It was
yeah.
her first Premier League tournament ever. She won
Wow.
in front of a home crowd, and she's 20 years old.
You wouldn't
Yeah.
get better than that, right?
Crazy. And really interesting. We were talking about the different tiers of the Karate One League before. The Youth League tournaments, she has done 7 of them. So she has grown up doing these Youth League tournaments, and then bang, as soon as you're a senior, she's ready. She's out there and she's winning. So it just shows what developing with access to those tournaments does for a person. I don't think she's done a Series A. I can't double confirm that. But potentially she got into the top 32 just through transition points, and maybe she did pretty well at not the Worlds.
Yeah, because
the
if you're not
junior
aware, I
worlds.
think it's half of your junior points for those listening transfer when you go into senior. So it's a decent chunk if you've
That
done
is- that is a
7
decent
youth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If
That's-
you're like rank 1 under 21.
And I guess that's a good advocate for that system, right? If you've
Mm.
proved yourself as a junior, like you deserve some head start in a sense of transferring points.
And look at what that head start has done for her.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, I think maybe we'll just take a little break and we'll reset and move on to the next little bit.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
Fantastic.
Okay, so we're back. We've just finished talking about the Karate One events that were happening. That was just the Premier League just gone in Paris. But there was also the Series A in Athens at the start of January, literally the start of January. I mean, the schedule this year heavily focuses on the early months. I think that's maybe just an odd occurrence, but on a regular basis, the WKF calendar does favour the European summer, which is usually June, July, August, whereas our Australian and sort of, I think, aligns with the Asian off season is December, January, November. Depends when you take your break, but we have our Oceanias and our nationals during July, August, so we kind of can't afford to take that break in that time. What do you think about? Do we need to align with them? Do you think it's an advantage, or maybe we're missing out on some events at the start of the year, especially the Australians that are at the cusp of Premier League and Series A events?
Sure.
Are they missing out on those early months if they take December off?
I think the elite guys really, like the top athletes in Australia, will have to consider trying to maximise. If you want to do international tournaments, then you almost have to fit to that calendar in a way. Obviously, you've still got to do the nationals, the Open and all the requirements to get selected for Australia. But at some point, you're probably kind of holding yourself back. If there's tournaments you might visit, but you're like, well, I was having a Christmas break. Depends how seriously you want to take it. I don't think as a whole, Australia needs to shift its calendar, because it's also about much more than just the elite representing Australia and getting maximum participation in the Open and the Nationals. And a lot of clubs and dojos are shut because it's 45 degrees in Perth at the moment. It's hot and it's not fun training in that.
It's actually so uncomfortable.
And people love their break, right? You got to think about the mums and the dads who are taking the 12-year-old kid to Nationals, and they might want to fit in a summer holiday. Kids are on break. It's sometimes more difficult to get students into the dojo. So having it fit in with the Australian calendar and our summer that way makes sense for most people. It's unfortunately for the top end guys, you have to weigh that up of, do you adjust and do your own off season at a different time? I don't even know when you would want to do that. To fit that in, maybe that's really hard as well.
I think it's just managing the schedule as best as you can. So like, for instance, myself, I didn't do Paris. I would have loved to have done Paris, but I just know that I needed that break in the December period just to give myself a mental reset. But I know Georgie did Paris. She went to Paris, so she must have prepared well for that and managed it a bit better. But I know that the back half of the year is going to be our main focus, especially for the team World Championships.
I think for this year, like if you were competing in, or if you want to compete in Series A tournaments, this year especially, it was important to maximise your first couple of months, because we had Athens, and then we've got in February we've got
Larnaca.
I
think it's literally like next week.
Yeah.
It is. It's this weekend.
Wow. Yeah.
It's this weekend.
16th to the 18th.
Holy. Wait, as in it's on right now?
No, it's this
weekend.
episode comes out on on Valentine's Day.
Yes, yep.
So this is leading into the Series A in Larnaca.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, so you've had your 2 out of 3 Series A's tournaments, which is very unfortunate for this year's calendar. Last year they had 4 Series A. This year only 3 Series A, and you got January, February, and then you've got one in August.
September? Yeah,
September, yes.
Series
It
A.
feels like 3, even 4 is not enough.
Yeah, I think 4 was, I mean, as many as you can, 100%. Last year, they were a lot more spread out, so it was a lot more accommodating for our calendar. You had, Series A. Sorry, you had 5 last year.
Yeah,
5 last year. It was January, March, April, September, November. So yeah, it really had a good spread. And even if you missed the one in January, you could really do. You could go to the March, April, and that aligns with our calendar quite well. I think the April one may have interfered with the Australian Open a little bit, but it's a lot better than having your January, February, and then having that huge break until September.
I think it's never going to be perfect. Like we're going to just have to manage the best that we can. And like, for instance, the Premier League in Cairo is the weekend before Australian Open. And the Australian Open is massive for us because we need to qualify at the Oceania on the Thursday for the team event World Championships. And there's just no way we're getting back from Cairo, finishing on the Sunday, flying in Monday, Tuesday, because takes 2 days to travel, and then getting ready for that big event on the Thursday.
Being
It's just,
100% for
there's
that.
just no way. So
That's too tight a turnaround, right?
yeah, and
You
that,
wouldn't be at 100%.
no way. And so that already eliminates that comp. And for myself, I've taken out Paris. So I've got Antalya and Casablanca, the 2 events that I can only compete at. I can't even do the Series A later on in the
Which
year.
still isn't, it puts you in a arguably better situation than a lot of Australian athletes are in.
Yeah.
Because the ones who are doing Series A's, if you've missed January, February, you've only got one more. And that's in September after your nationals, before the Worlds, which is really good, honestly. And it'll be a great
It's a
tournament
great
in
time of year
Salzburg, wasn't
to
it?
kind of build up, I think. You've got that nationals and then you got Series A.
It is a good time.
Yeah.
You can be really peaking for that time of year at least.
For sure. I mean, that's a great time for the juniors of Australia. I mean, usually we would have our Oceania in that time for the juniors, but this year is the off year for us for the young ones, and so mate, instead of taking some time off, we've got some youth leagues that people can look to do. We've got one in June. Let's have a look here. And it's not just the youth league, it's the WKF Youth Camp, and that's in Poreč, Croatia. So that's a fantastic event to go to. If you're sort of a junior cadet, even an under 21 that's thinking about taking the next step and expanding your horizons for competitive karate, great place to start. There's elite athletes that are there coaching, guest athletes like, I think Haruna was at the last one. I can't even remember. I think maybe
Bruce has been at a couple.
Yeah. And Zelika,
You had was it Ivan was there?
Kovacic? Oh, the Kovacic brothers. Both of them.
I think he was there.
So it's like experience galore, and it's super fun because you're with all these young kids and all the same age, and then you do a competition at the end. So that's amazing. I think we've got I know a couple of kids that are going to that.
Australian kids.
Yeah. And then the one in August. So obviously they're taking that July break. So there's nothing in July, but they come back strong on the 8th.
Yeah, so it's a bit hard to go over for both, but if you could pick one, that'd be fantastic for your development. And Croatia is a beautiful country, and you get the camp and the tournament. So I think that's a very valuable one for the Australian athletes coming up now. And as we said before, that French girl who got into the final of Paris Open, she's done 7 throughout her development. So they're so great. I mean, it's a lot easier for her, and we can't expect to be able to do 7 throughout. That's a lot of money for us traveling, but if you can get yourself to a couple of those, I mean, it's like an Australian Open, but it opens your eyes to the world of international karate and these athletes who are doing it near every weekend. It's a great introduction instead of waiting until you're a senior, going to your first Series A. I mean, it's a lot better now than it has been in the past, but it's still confronting. I know it was for me as soon as I went onto that international stage. It's like,
there's no
holy. Like,
and it's a different league to Junior Oceania, right? Like there's a lot more competitors, a lot more, I would say, competitive countries on a world level. But the training camp, I've only ever heard great story. It's far to go. It's not cheap, but everyone who's done it has always come back going, that was so worth it. And like you said, the eyes are opened. And that's when I know you said you've done one, Mitch.
Yeah, that changed my perspective on training, and it really opened my eyes up. There's like milestones or like little key moments in your sort of karate career that you go, oh, that really impacted me, and that was one of them. And that, I think, got me connected to the karate world with the people, and allowed me to meet new friends from different countries, and that's opened so many opportunities for me to like go overseas for training camps, go to someone's dojo in like, I don't know, anywhere, and just train with them, because you just make that connection, because it's a 3-day training camp, 4-day training camp, and you're there with these countries and you just make friends. It's so cool.
Yeah, it was also huge, like mentoring wise for you, because you found a bit of a mentor in Douglas Bros. Hey?
Yeah, it was just one time. Yeah, I had a session with him, and I just was like, let's just have a chat to him. And because he was pretty open to, talking to the young ones, and I was like, yeah, why not? I'm like an under 21, so I feel like I got the confidence to have a chat. And yeah, he was so nice. He had a chat with me for like maybe 10 minutes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, wicked. It was so cool.
So let's bring it back to Australia. So Oceania first.
That's for
That's-
seniors. So
That's seniors.
So that's the Thursday team event. Friday
individual.
individuals for senior Oceania, and that's a qualification for the Team World Championships, which we'll talk about in another episode.
Yeah. I don't think actually it's like we're talking about the calendars and the fact that Australian athletes don't get a whole lot this year. It's not too bad because at least they can save their money a bit for next year. And because it's the individual senior world championships next year, I'd be as soon as that calendar releases, I think this calendar got released in about October. As soon as that calendar gets released, I'd be planning my next year because next year is going to be huge for the individual athletes. And if you can get to a couple of those early comps in June, Feb, March, March.
Interesting way to list
We
them.
are recording this podcast really early in the morning, and Nathan has not had enough coffee.
Hey, so Jan, Feb, March, if you can get yourself to a couple of those, it puts you in really good stead to sort of plan the rest of your year. You can see where you're at the international level. You can see what you need to work on, and you can follow that into the Oz Open and then, maybe a Premier League or a Series A later down the track before the individual world. So it's not too bad, I think. So you've got not Egypt. What's the last Premier League?
Morocco.
This year? You've got Morocco, and then it's going to be like a
Big break.
9-month break until you get another Premier League.
Yeah, that's pretty unfortunate, but it's just the way it works.
But it puts you in good financial stead at least
100%.
to really attack 2025.
Yep. No, it's going to be, you got to find the silver lining in things, right? So, and it actually is a pretty thick silver lining. So, you can say that, right? Thick silver lining.
You got the World Teams later this year.
There's still some great events, right? It's not like
for sure.
It's just if you're looking at the Series A and trying to get into that, it's perhaps not the very best year for that, but there's still some good events.
Yeah, there will
for
still be
Australian athletes.
Budapest Open, I assume, which will be around the same time.
Yeah.
September,
like around about that time. Yeah, I think maybe it's a good time to hit those international opens, and I'm sure we'll talk about it throughout the year. But if you don't want to compete in the Karate One League, there are still so many international opens that countries run that are still such a high quality tournament. So like the Budapest Open I did last year, the Paris Open when it wasn't a Karate One League.
Austrian
event.
Open's fantastic
Australian
as well.
Open's good. There's heaps of countries that run these big tournaments that's perfect for getting rounds in, getting good experience, fighting good countries. And
they're held quite frequently, right? So if you were heading to Porek or somewhere, if you do it right, there might be one of these open events on a weekend preceding or after. And if you're in Europe, so if you're heading somewhere, try and check out for your money's worth. You've flown all the way to Europe, try and get a second tournament if there's one on.
I think the Austrian Open.
Yeah, so I know a couple of Aussie athletes, they're doing Porek,
Correct.
and then they're going on to do the Austrian Open, I think, in a couple of weeks afterwards. So they've got a bit of travel time, but then back into a comp, and it'll be a fantastic international
And it's a great
comp for
excuse
them.
to sightsee, see some of Europe. You've got that extra time.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think that's fantastic. That's a really great way to sum up. So next week's episode, we're going to be chatting about the national training camp that's just happened. But we'll also lead into the preparations for the Senior Oceania Championships, the Junior World Championships, the Senior Team World Championships, and we'll break down all of that sort of stuff. Is there anything you wanted to touch on before we wrap up?
I think we covered it.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening again.
Yeah.
If you made it through 2, you've been a superstar.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We should come up with something else to comment. Surely.
okay.
Is there a question to comment on? Yes or no?
Whether Nathan's had 2 or 3 cups of coffee.
Yeah. I mean, it's
What's your guess?
time
What's
is
your
it?
number?
About 6:30
6:30.
I
in
don't
the
know.
morning. So I've definitely had one, at least.
But yeah, as always, please let us know your feedback. Ask us any questions. After all, we are an organisation for you guys. So we're here to serve you. So yeah, send us an email at kaizenculture.info@gmail.com.
I'm going to plug it one more time. Head to our website, sign up to our email list, because we're really going to be focusing on that this year.
Hell yeah. Finished?
Done.
Let's play the outro.